the midterms. And with that, we welcome our political panel. Republican strategist and NewsNation political contributor Denise Gitsham and Democratic strategist David Carlucci. A pleasure to have you both. Thank you for being here. So, Denise, I'd like to start with you. The president's approval rating, it's not looking super favorable. He has been hammered on his messaging on affordability, on dealings with Iran. We've talked before, and you said, essentially, this war has to end. So what does a successful conclusion look like there? And maybe more importantly, what's the timeline?
You know, I think so much of the messaging behind this war has really obfuscated what the actual goals are. And I think that they need to get quickly. This administration needs to quickly clarify and define and stick with one set of talking points, just one, about what this war actually was about and why Americans should be expected to support him moving forward. Look, a lot of political capital has been blown because of the lack of message discipline around this war. And even if the end goal is noble and something that everyone supports, if you can't get your messaging clear, and I say this as a political strategist, as someone who's been in presidential politics for 27 years, the number one rule of messaging is that you have to be clear on the definition of why you're asking Americans to sacrifice and what this war is about. And this administration has failed to do that over and over and over again.
All right. Well noted. And David, to her point, you know, Democrats are leveraging the American sentiment here in their own campaigns. We've seen success, but progressive and Democratic socialist candidates have been winning several high-profile Democratic primaries, and some are saying this may not be a good thing for the party. So what do you see it as? Is this a winning strategy?
Well, look, this is a small percentage of the overall elections that are happening. Yes, it gets the highlights, it gets the hype. What this is about is it's anti-incumbency, it's about affordability, and it's really voters saying they're sick and tired and they're not going to take it anymore. And that's why they're voting out incumbents when they have the opportunity. But the wind is at the back of the Democrats. The Democrats are expanding their tent. They have progressives, they have moderates, whereas on the Republican side, what they have is just Donald Trump. And you don't even know what the Republicans stand for anymore. Is it a free market, free trade? No, we're not sure. And it's just the whims of Donald Trump. So I think, as you see, when voters have a choice, since Donald Trump has been elected, if it's a Democrat or a Republican, Democrats are overperforming for many reasons. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that disconnect. We just talked about it. About messaging, that the lack of discipline from the Trump administration is astonishing. And part of that is because I don't think there's a vision. It's the whims of Donald Trump. And then to multiply that, you have the problem of Donald Trump making over $2 billion since he took the White House. And meanwhile, Americans are saying, what about me? And I think that's why there's such a disconnect with Donald Trump. He doesn't understand the affordability issue because he's reaping in more money than he has in his lifetime.
I do want to.
That puts a bad taste in people's mouth.
I do want to get to that, David. I appreciate you bringing it up. I think, to be fair, that same criticism has been made about the Democrats as well, failing to coalesce behind one single leader. But I hear your point. And, Denise, I do want to ask you about this because the president is in hot water over his wealth, his children's business dealings after those financial disclosures were revealed, that he made more than $2 billion during his first year back in office. Here was a bit of his response on that.
I could know about it. I didn't.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing illegal. There's nothing wrong with it. I could know. Almost anything they do, if they want to buy a truck, if they want to buy, if they buy an energy efficient truck, they have inside information.
So Bill O'Reilly was on our network. He was talking with Cuomo about this, and he said, in essence, his supporters, the president's supporters, they like what he stands for, and they're willing to tolerate some of this if he's taking on the big issues like securing the border, confronting a terrorist regime, etc. But now you have some Republican lawmakers saying Congress should do something. Do you think they should or they will?
Well, Congress should start with itself. Look, Congress has never been able to pass any sort of laws that cap its own ability to benefit, really in a way that says there are rules for thee, but not for me, right? This is not a partisan issue. I mean, you look at Bernie Sanders flying in private jets and being in chauffeured cars and talking about fighting oligarchy. I mean, there's Elizabeth Warren has made over $12 million since she's gotten in office. And while those numbers pale in comparison to what we saw the president make just in the last year and a half, it doesn't change the fact that nobody believes that the people in Washington are simply there only to serve. They actually believe that they're there to take and take and take, and that private personal inurement, that benefit of just being in office and how much there's money to be profited from what should be really public service at the expense of oneself is what people are so upset about. So I think even what you're seeing, and this is something David said as well, about, this is a railing against the establishment. Yes, that's exactly what these movements on the Democratic Socialists and also on the far right, where you have the anti-establishment Republicans. We've got a problem of credibility in our country that starts with Congress way before President Trump came in and has been continued and exacerbated by President Trump's rhetoric. So I just think that if we don't wake up as a nation, we're not going to understand what it is that we're fighting for, and there's going to be absolute anarchy.